Welcome to this episode of Sunny's Silver Linings. Sunny's guest today is Jason Dettbarn, founder and CEO of Addigy. In today's episode, they chat about culture, company core value systems, lessons learned in the world of MSPs, and so much more. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kayla. Over to you, Sunny.
Jason, I have been waiting for this podcast. I wanted to do this with you, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me on, Sunny. Thank you.
Yeah, and finally, we're making it happen. And I think a good starting point, Jason, would be to share your life journey and your entrepreneurial journey with the world, with our viewers. And can we start there? Can you please share your life journey with us?
Yeah, I mean, other than first grade, I'll skip that portion of it. My background is in engineering, so I did a lot of fun stuff in embedded software engineering. I was the lead engineer in the first GPS-enabled phone in the world at Motorola and many other cool technologies from there. But I had a real passion for business. So I pivoted and decided my best way to learn business was to just jump into sales, sort of that front end of the house, just demonstrating value. I joined a company called CA Computer Associates and then pivoted from there to Kaseya, where I was at for over 8 years. Inevitably, I ran sales operations worldwide at Kaseya. But there was this nagging aspect to what we were doing. Nobody was focusing on these Apple devices themselves. And it was a high growth area for everybody. And so quit my job, had my second child on the way, and figured this is the perfect time to bootstrap and start a company. We're now at just shy of 80 employees, our second best places to work from Inc. Awarded this year as well too. We're just really proud of the people that have helped build what we have today here at Addigy.
Yeah, so you started Addigy in 2014, right?
Yeah, I mean, I quit my job in 2014. I didn't really start, actually having a sellable product for the market until 2015, 2016. So yeah, we're call it 6 or 7 years in what we're doing.
Okay, I mean that was very kind of innovative at that time. You starting, so it's going to be close to a decade very soon with your entrepreneurial journey, and I don't think too many people were thinking about especially in the MSP space, because it was very Windows heavy from the beginning. And so what made you think of this and start a company to manage Apple devices?
I mean, you just look at some of the larger organizations out there, especially tech companies, they're all Mac, and they needed to have this posture. They're putting together tons of different open source software. The incumbent in this space at the time, on-premise systems, they had $7,000 upfront training to get started with it. It just felt very ripe for disruption. And it's important to remember back then, when I started the business, Apple was making most of its money predominantly through iPhones. And up until about 3 years ago, they hadn't had a single hardware refresh of the entire Mac lineup for 5 years. People were legitimately saying they were going to end of life the Mac. We forget about this stuff. You look at it today, you look at the innovation and the amount of money they're putting into the Mac lineup and the adoption within business. I mean, everybody I would talk to would say, there's not that many Apple devices in business. And that was the earliest days where it was definitely a struggle for people to believe that this was an important area to look at.
Yeah. And so you have predicted where things are going, back in 2014. Now, I want to start. So now talking about this, the startup where you probably have bootstrapped and you have burned your own money to get a product out there to the market. And so let's talk about a little bit of culture. Like, how would you define culture at Addigy?
I'm gonna start it with that initial phase of what we call bootstrapping the business, because it at least seeds it, which is, I think a lot of people get caught up with trying to build the Chrome, try to make everything look shiny and bigger and everything else like it. We were very onerous on where we were at. Literally I had one phone in the office you'd call, and they'd say, can I speak to support? Sure, what can I help you with? I needed that feedback loop where I could really best understand, what people needed, how things are working, after we sold the deals too. So, that aspect of having no coconut water in the fridge and no flashy office, we were and we're still a very scrappy organization that believes it's in value. If I could have, all my engineers, work for 3 months in support and understand viscerally our customers' needs and demands before they even start writing code, that's something I would do. But we actually have a really good pipeline of people that came in as interns and then did support, and now they're in product management or engineering, other areas, because you just can't jump in a seat. You have to understand the needs of our customers intimately. And I think that's just a core part of our culture that has, definitely grown way past me.
Yeah. So what is the value system, like core values that you practice and preach at Addigy?
Yeah, we have 3 that we are adamant at, almost at a religious basis: humble, hungry, and smart. Now, humble's number 1. If you've got an ego, there's no room for you here at Addigy, right? We're all trying to learn. We're all trying to get better. No matter how good we are, there's room to improve and continue to evolve. We got to be hungry. There's definitely people that I've met that have been really smart and know what they're doing, but they have to have that hunger, that drive, where they're not having to be micromanaged every day. That's just not our culture here. And then smart, and not in an intellectual level. It's how we're thinking about and breaking down problems and scaling what we're doing. We want to be smart about our time, so that hunger and that, being smart about how we're using our time pay off. So we really try to build on those principles at a core. And then we have product principles that we look at, which is security first, scale and operations, and real Apple depth. And those 3 buckets are how we break down our value proposition to our customers.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, those are great values, and also the overall framework that you give to your people to make those decisions with security first. And so that's a nice segue to our topic for today, cybersecurity in the context of MSPs managing all these endpoints, and the way the market share for Apple devices, devices that our MSP friends are managing for small, medium-sized businesses, and number of, you see more and more Apple devices there, and that requires a comprehensive solution to better manage cybersecurity aspect of these devices. So, that's what my understanding is in terms of your value offerings for MSPs. So, but I want to start with your value offerings. So what value are you adding to MSPs? And so if you can give me in a nutshell, so that people can understand a little bit more about your offerings.
Yeah, so we're the only multi-tenant MDM Apple platform on the market, meaning that we're the only platform that you can add multiple customers under one account and scale your operations. And people really, call us an Apple RMM for that particular reason. Mm-hmm. After Apple decided that you had to have MDM as a technology stack to manage Apple devices, it's really that capability with all of the other service-based operations we build in, monitoring, remediation, remote control, all of those pieces. And it's about scaling the operations, what we're doing. And hopefully, as our customers can attest to, it's not as hard of a job as traditional RMM tools to manage. That's kind of the difficult thing out there today, I think. But I think the important piece on Apple that's changed is people look at it and they think, well, these never get viruses. They're highly secure. That's a brand model from a few years ago when there wasn't that many Apple devices out there and they were not a threat vector out there. But however, this last year, we've had more zero-day vulnerabilities on the Apple platform than ever before. And I always say that there's always at least a few Apple devices in the C-suite, and a lot of times they're not being managed. So what kind of threat scenario lives in that sort of environment? And most MSPs have all but left that aside. It's both securing the devices that are the people who write the checks for our MSPs, but it's also an amazing growth opportunity for MSPs as well.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that importance of managing Apple devices for MSPs, and because a lot of C-level people use that in the companies that are cutting checks for them as managed services monthly checks, and it is important for them to be intentional about securing those devices and managing those devices. Now, my question there, a follow-up question there is, what has changed in the last few years that importance of these devices is more? Is it the product quality, like Mac product quality is going down, or it's just the opportunity for these bad actors just because of the bigger market share?
No, it's not that the quality's gone down, quite the contrary. And I'm not a Mac fanboy. I never used a Mac predominantly before I started Addigy itself. The last year and a half, with the new Apple M1 chips, the performance levels, the recent Apple Worldwide Developer Conference they just put on with their new M2 devices, amazing performance and battery life. And form factors and things that people have been craving and wanting. So they're being more loved than ever before. The difference is there's a lot more devices out there. So the bad actors are looking at them and going, it's worth putting the time in and actually attacking this threat vector. Orbit's actually got sued a few years ago because they were charging more money for trips if you searched via an Apple device because they thought you had more money. And I think just in general, I think bad actors have said there's a lot more devices, and we think that there's more valuable data on these devices than just general PCs.
Mm-hmm. Now, so let's talk about the risk. So what is the risk that you see for not having a solution to do complete management of Apple devices?
Yeah, at this point, unless an MSP is using some sort of MDM that it's not going to be able to scale because they do it per customer, they're at least doing something there. If not, most of them are using their traditional RMM, and they have a remote control capability, and that's it. So there's no patching. There's no simple hygiene around encryption of the device, managing and being able to lock it, wipe it, etc. Those are core. We've got to be able to just enable those out of the box. So once you have an Addigy, the device literally, you buy it from the Apple Store or it's drop shipped to your environment. You pull it out of the plastic with zero touch. It auto enrolls in Addigy. You have your branded login page the MSP puts there with the end user can log into Google, Okta, O365, Azure AD, and then everything happens from there. Then now you're securing that device and providing that experience. So those business owners in most of our MSPs out there today, they're literally getting nothing provided to them. You can't patch those systems, so you're really very vulnerable, not just to the regular employees that are there, but usually the influencers or business owners that you're managing. So it's very important. And then you've got other opportunities where if you're a larger MSP, your sales team is just disqualifying leads left and right. You probably don't even hear about it because they don't have the confidence to manage those Apple devices. They're just disqualifying them before you even try to provide them a quote.
Mm-hmm. So Apple RMM, right? So that's your platform. And so, my general sense is talking to a lot of partners where, they don't want to have too many tools, too many platforms, and less is more when it comes to, software or systems that you're using to manage your business. And so that could be an issue where now I have to have one RMM to manage Apple devices, and then I need to have another RMM to manage Windows devices. Do you hear that? I mean, what are your thoughts in terms of kind of really having too many tools to manage these two different type of devices?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, ironically, the way I initially bootstrapped Addigy itself and brought on my first employees was they would buy Apple software from us, and then can you please manage my Kaseya server for me? This was when I was one or two people, right? And I'm like, okay, well, there's very few people that understand how to manage these behemoth traditional RMM platforms. You got a couple people, it's a lot of infrastructure and work. So we make it a lot easier, a lot simpler, and we're constantly being begged to try to do Windows. But it's not a hard aspect. We actually provide an onboarding experience where we help guide you and help you set everything up. And then from there, most of it is pretty turnkey, and you've got this ability to provide all these other additional capabilities of remote management and such, but without nearly the same amount of work and effort as you would with the traditional RMM platforms.
So Jason, I want to move into our next question, which is, what's the difference between managing Apple versus Windows devices?
Yeah, I mean, the key component now that we have to be familiar with is that mobile device management protocol, MDM. Apple said, listen, you're not going to be able to do anything on this device unless you're the approved MDM on it. So I'm deploying Sentinel-1. Even though I could get the software deployed out there, it actually is a requirement to be able to use MDM to bless it to do its job. Otherwise, your end user is going to get 10 different pop-ups asking, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? And the end user is never going to say yes to everything. So the only way to robustly deploy security software and all the security configurations you need to have an MDM. And again, since we're the only multi-tenant MDM on the market, we're the only ones that help you scale your operation. So if I'm patching one customer, I don't want to patch everybody. And as we see things change in the market, I think over what would be a potential economic shift a bit, organizations are going to be looking to find MSPs to provide these additional services. And so that multi-tenancy where I can have them log into Addigy, my end customer, give them remote control access. If they're a big client and they're trying to save money, we have all of these capabilities that you'd traditionally need in an RMM style.
Yeah, and what's the RMM? What RMM means in the Apple ecosystem? Is there any difference?
That's a good question. And we're the only ones who do this area of it for Apple, because MDM itself is just configuring a device. That's really what the protocol helps you do. And that's just one layer of it, configuring that device. The rest of it is all that remote live management capability where we can work under the hood. So a few things that we do is you can bring up the machine and look at it under the hood, kill off processes, check the bandwidth, chat with the user, remote control, even work live on the terminal without affecting the end user. So it's that service capability that we've all understood is what RMM helps really provide. And we do that whole stack seamlessly together. It's just stuff that you don't have to worry or think about. It's there in the platform.
Okay, got it. And if people want to get more information about how they can help their customers with Apple devices and how your solutions, your offerings can help them help their end customer, where can they go and learn more about your offerings?
Yeah, go right to our website, addigy.com. Drop us an email at sales@addigy.com. Happy to take you through a quick demo. We've got video resources on there as well too, and you can use a free trial and just get used to it. Important thing that we do that's very different also is that I designed the billing model on a per day basis. You're not going to sign annual contracts with us. My mantra is, if you're not making money, we're not making money. So if you fire a client that day, you take it out of the platform, the billing stops for those devices that day at a pro rata basis. So there's a lot that we do to try to make sure that we're very much aligned with you and your organization, get you off on the right path and onboarding, make it really easy to use, and just keep growing at a rate that we did last year of 148% net expansion of MSP devices in the space. So really great growth for our customers.
Yeah, good to know that, because not too many RMM platforms provide that flexibility or let MSPs be agile based on pay as you go or as you use. So that makes it really easy for partners to make a decision and address a lot of their concerns. And there's one
Yeah,
more
the last
place.
thread on I was going to say the last thread on culture on that is just that, you got to keep everybody aligned in incentives and needs and how things work. I've always felt if you sign somebody up to a multi-year contract, you're going to start forgetting about them, whether you intentionally do so or not. So it keeps the organization very much tied towards the needs of our customers every day. And I mean, it's still a very important thing we all have to do.
Yeah. And there's one more place, Jason, where people can come and meet you. And that's coming up next month, which is
Yes.
Build It. So I know Jason will be at Build It, and we're putting a lot of effort, energy, a lot of resources to help MSPs learn, because Build It is all about kind of really education first. And if you want more education on this topic, you can come to Build It, and there will be breakouts. There will be a lot of learning opportunities to learn on this topic, and also meet Jason there in person. And Jason, there are a lot of MSP startups that kind of view this podcast. And my question to you is so my mantra is paid forward always, what can we do to share what we know? And, the wisdom that life university that teaches you lessons that you learn, you can learn those from reading books or listening to books or podcasts. So my question for you is, what are some of the lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur that you want to share with our next generation?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously learn through mistakes, but a few things I did get right was just, as I mentioned before, no ego, and ensuring really that your organization is always wanting to find the next smartest person, the one that's smarter than them, right? So when you go in a room as a leader, you're having people that elevate your capabilities and elevate what you do. And it sounds simple, it sounds easy, but it's actually quite hard. When you're really helping to guide the organization, that guidance needs to be able to step back and let other people rise in their leadership, because that's the only way the organization is going to fundamentally grow, is by truly letting other people take that baton, take it to the next level that, as a constrained entrepreneur, you'll never be able to do. As much as you can dedicate yourself in different areas, it's that aspect of being able to now take your eyes beyond the day-to-day and beyond the month and quarter, and start to look out, in a year's time frame, and trusting and having people that are rising above that. So my point is just simply maintain that culture of people being smarter than yourself, that egos are not building within that organization. That just creates an amazing group of people.
Yeah. And because, as a startup, you have to do a lot of those things from first resources that are available as a startup. You mentioned you picking up the call and doing doing all wearing different hats, right? So support, sales, other things, and one outcome that you are looking for there is that being there and learning what that experience is. But on top of that, slowly, if you are a startup entrepreneur and you, as you said, if you're not kind of really being intentional about what you need to keep and what you need to let go, and then focusing on people and letting other people take some responsibilities, is hard to scale. It's difficult to scale with a lot of your day-to-day. So always being intentional about who can do this for me, rather than I need to do everything, and what are those activities that you can delegate and then elevate in US terms, or rather than learning everything based on how, thinking who rather than how, as my friend Dan Sullivan will say. So that's a great learning and sharing that you're doing with our next generation of entrepreneurs. And I truly appreciate your time, Jason, you coming to my podcast as my special guest. And I look forward to seeing you at Build It and have quality time with you for those 3 days. And thank you so much once again.
Thanks, Sunny. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.